Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Welcome to the Table podcast. My name is Khalil.
My name is Sean.
And we have been really continuing to tailor this podcast towards conversations around doubt and deconstruction and the things that really help sharpen our faith, because we want to help people grow a deep rootedness in their faith. Really, I will say my heart is we don't want to see people get uprooted from their faith. And we know that this world is constantly trying to do that. And so that's something we are both very passionate about. I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that.
Yeah, and just even what does it look like to navigate through it all?
Mm-hmm.
You know, how do we do this? How do we follow Jesus? Ancient practices, we'll talk about attributes of God, and obviously we're hitting hard on deconstruction at a 30,000 foot view, and then even trickling down into what that means. How do we walk out our faith with Jesus? So yeah, we're glad you join us. We're glad you subscribe.
Absolutely. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for hitting a like. Thanks for the reviews. Thanks for the ratings. Thanks for the shares. Yeah. Oh my gosh. As we see more people coming and listening, and we want to just give a special shout out as well to our Patreon supporters. In particular, Shane, we want to say hello to you. You have been our longest supporter since like the beginning.
From the very beginning.
And it means so much to us.
Yeah,
and
thanks, man.
Even upped your pledge recently. And we just want to say thank you so much. You're making a big impact in what we're able to do here. So we today want to kind of break down Carey Nieuwhof. If you don't know him, you won't know how to spell his name. Niewhof. Nieuwhof. Okay, sorry, Carey. If you're listening to this, we apologize.
Jeez, help us, Lord.
Pastor in Canada, and a great writer and thinker. Has a huge blog on the Carey Nieuwhof podcast,
yes,
and his blog, his website. So
a lot of interviews and stuff.
A while ago, he came out with an article that I printed out here, Sean, and figured we could kind of roll through. Yep. And it says 5 real reasons young people are deconstructing their faith. I thought this really tied in, and looking over it kind of quickly, there are thoughts that are pretty unique and original. They're not part of a lot of the conversations going on right now. And I just figured we could roll through it and give our thoughts and share it with our viewers and listeners. Sound good?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I'm buckled in, Khalil.
Buckle in.
I'm ready to go. Are you buckled in, listener?
5-point harness, roller coaster. What is that thing called?
That comes down.
So here's kind of what it says. We'll read through it and we'll just make comments along the way. Yeah. I might skip a couple little things here and there, but he says it's framed as the new trendy threat to Christianity. Mm-hmm. Deconstruction has become a catch-all term for a wide range of spiritual experiences. Depending on who's using the word, deconstruction can be a complete demolition of Christian belief, a critical reappraisal of one's tradition, or an honest acknowledgement of doubt and questions. And so I love that. You know, deconstruction can be a demolition. We've seen that where we're breaking it down, we're breaking down our faith, and we're really not building anything back up in its place.
Right.
It can be a reappraisal of one's faith tradition. So I don't know. What do you think a reappraisal means, Sean?
Yeah, I think, you think about an appraisal of your house. So it's almost saying, how worthwhile is this? Is it worth following? Is it really worth giving my life to? Let's
is it really making a difference?
Is it really making an impact? Yeah, totally.
And then the other is just an honest acknowledgement of doubt and questions. And so when I see that deconstruction can be a completely just demolishing, tearing down. We are ripping this thing apart and leaving it in ashes. Or it can be, which I've even experienced this in different ways, is just looking at something we've believed and going, okay, why do I believe that? What's really behind this, and growing deeper. So he explains that there's the term really can mean a lot of different things depending on who's saying it. So he says, according to someone else, deconstruction can be a crisis of Christian faith that leads to either a reevaluation of Christianity or sometimes a total abandonment of Christianity. And so 2 things to note right as we're diving in. He says, first and foremost, deconstruction is not synonymous with deconversion.
Right.
And that's really important because everyone who deconverts probably starts by deconstructing.
Right.
But not everyone who deconstructs their faith is ultimately deconverting from their faith or walking away from their faith, right?
And that's super important. And we've talked about that in other episodes, and so we won't belabor it here. But
yeah,
yes,
you know,
it's an important distinction there.
Yeah, with Charlie Allo, we mentioned this,
Right.
how you can actually have a stronger faith on the other side of a
Correct.
healthy deconstructive process, because it's breaking apart the kind of the Legos that have built up our faith. Maybe they've been built up wrong or on wrong assumptions. And so we break those back down and we rebuild them on healthy theology.
Right.
And that's something we hope to help people with on this podcast
Truth.
as well. So he says second, and I know you'll probably have something to say on here, Sean, but it says, it is not helpful to refer to deconstruction as a movement. A lot of times we hear about the deconstruction movement that's just taken over this day and age. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I would say that a movement can be extremely unifying. Whereas if you look at kind of the deconstruction, as Nieuwhof says, explosion, or becomes very pop or very hip or very in, it's actually not unifying much. I mean, it's actually causing, if it's done unhealthy, I would almost say that we're not necessarily even experience I would say it's more of a demolition or destruction than it is. It's destructive instead of actually unifying. So that would be the main thing there. And so I totally agree with Carey on this. Yeah.
And something he says here kind of on the lines with that, he says, a movement implies a group of people moving in the same direction towards the same destination.
Yeah.
And so that's the unification you're talking about. But he says deconstruction is less of a movement and more of an explosion. That's because where someone ends up after deconstruction is almost as diverse as the reason why they deconstructed in the first place. And I think that's really important to take into note, because especially if someone's struggling with their faith for some different reason, I mean, we all are going to wrestle with our beliefs. We should, at least. We should process through what we believe. But we're not all processing through things the same or for the same reason. Some are processing through certain theological points and whether or not they understand them or believe them to be true, or a folk theology they picked up that isn't substantial or true theology. An example of folk theology would be like the image of angels being, people with harps on clouds, like that kind of image but that's not actually in the Bible, and it's not true theology. So someone could deconstruct because they're going, I don't know, I see things that just don't even make sense, or I don't see that in the scripture. That's a fair reason to process through something. Someone else may have experienced trauma or abuse within the church, or pained relationships, or there may be some kind of church hurt that's hardened their heart or wounded them, or can actually cause them, because we are representatives of Christ, to then feel like that's an affront against God, and they have a pain in their relationship with God, right? So there's a lot of different reasons that people could be deconstructing, and a lot of different directions they're going. And so something I hadn't thought a lot about, but I really appreciate that deconstruction right now is much more of just an explosion, with people going in a lot of different directions for that.
Right. It's a helpful image.
So yeah, the degree to which someone deconstructs, Carey says, can vary widely, right? Depending on our experiences, kind of what I just says. It's not one size fits all as a narrative. Right. And so I thought that was really helpful. There's no such thing as a one size fits all deconstructive narrative. And an example of this I'll share is I was talking with another pastor friend in our network, and I was processing some things in student ministry, and I was like, I noticed all of a sudden I was going, well, why do we do this? And why do we do that? And is there a better way? Could there be a different way? Is this really what's most helpful for students? And is this really most in line with the purpose of the church? And I'm just starting to ask a lot of those questions in my own heart, because I wanted to be more faithful. Mm-hmm. I really wanted to make sure that I'm being faithful, not to just what's been handed to me, but really what God desires for me as a pastor. Right. And this other pastor friend was doing that in a different way, and pointed out, they said, you're kind of doing a deconstruction of your youth ministry. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I never really thought about it, but I am, because I'm working some of the blocks back so that mm-hmm. I can try to build forward healthy. And so that's an example of how we all kind of do this, and it's not one size fits all. I was not running away from Jesus. I was not leaving the faith. Okay. Right. I promise that. So, let's get into the reasons here now that Carey kind of sets up a framework for us to understand what deconstruction is and that it varies a lot. He says, one, and I don't know that these are in any particular order,
Right.
but I definitely think the first one is a very big one. He says, number one, the first reason that young people are deconstructing their faith, he says, trust in large institutions is declining all across the board.
And everybody listening is like,
Mhm.
yep,
Mhm.
You know, we don't even have to really even explain it. You go,
No.
oh yeah.
No, there is this massive distrust in authority that has entered into our cultural and societal narrative. I think that's a challenging one. I think there are legitimate reasons why that may have happened: abuses, corruption, deceptions, power issues, all sorts of stuff like that. But then it's also really trendy right now to not trust any authority or any authority figure either. Where we place our trust is shifting and changing in culture right now in a big way. So I'm not going to read everything, but he says, people are losing their faith in large institutions in an age of mass information, fake news, out of touch politics, hashtag Me Too, income inequality, conspiracy theories, public health crisis, and absurd political, I blocked it off. What's it say? I have it stapled. Absurd
Political theater.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you for the help.
You're welcome.
Now, this is something I thought was interesting. He says the four primary institutional pillars of modern society are government, business, media, and church. He says these are more likely to be viewed as corrupt, ineffective, and self-serving than they are to be seen as trustworthy, effective, and selfless.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have any thoughts.
It's interesting because my quick thought goes to the book by Mark Sayers, A Non-Anxious Presence, where he really talks about this, the building up of institutionalization of everything, you know, big business, big media, big government, big church, whatever, and how there across the board, there's been this major shift in our culture and pushback against it, that it's not, you know, it's not almost that it's not necessarily that it's just popular, but because of what technology affords, we are able to, you know, you can, it used to be like your 15 minutes of fame was your 15 minutes of fame. That's all you had. Now you have, you know, people who are basically would be considered nobodies that aren't a part of the machine, whatever the machine may be, government, business, whatever, that are actually usurping the authority. So you have mayors and city council people that are becoming as powerful or even more powerful than governors and state representatives and things like that. So you see this interesting, like deconstruction as a whole with the four pillars and the major institutions. And I mean, just look at cable network TV. We just look at that for a second. But anyway, this is unfiltered, you know, I'm processing on the go, but it's interesting to watch it happen.
Well, and what I look at is, you know, government, business, media, and church have all been really integral parts of society for a long time. And as we see them as people continue to see all of them as possibly corrupt, ineffective, and self-serving rather than trustworthy, effective, and selfless, what we're doing is we're pulling back from these institutions, and whenever we pull back somewhere, we're going to try to find that security or find that somewhere that trustworthiness and that selflessness somewhere else.
Correct.
And so my question, it'd be interesting to think about it a little bit more. Maybe you have some immediate thoughts, but is where does it seem like people are finding that right now? One example that I see is social media influencers. And I know that it doesn't mean every social media influencer, we're not turning to every voice to be that for us. But what I'm seeing is I can't trust the government anymore, or I can't trust the media anymore. So I'm getting my news from a YouTuber because they seem like a trustworthy voice. I trust them. I'm choosing to place my trust in them. I can't trust the government to tell me the truth. So I'm finding a social media influencer that I'm willing to hear their voice. And so we're canceling out other voices and we're replacing them. I see social media channels as one of those. I don't know if there's others.
Yeah. Social media channels. I'm starting to get my news more with some of these other smaller news agencies, if you will, that are putting out their stuff via subscriptions or social media. Another thought that I haven't done a lot of research on this, but I would think grandparents, it depending on who you are, how old you are. I think if you're in that 16 to 18 to 30 range, I think you're getting some of that. Now, you may not agree with grandma and grandpa,
Sure,
but they are a rock source in general.
sure.
So I think that might be another one, but
Yeah, sorry, my brain went somewhere else. I was gonna say, I'll throw it in anyways. But did you notice? I don't know if you've seen this, but I've been looking at some research and some different trends right now, and they're showing that there's always going to be a rebellious youth in society. It's always going to be that. So right now, a lot of people who are rebelling against cultural norms today are starting to become Christians, are starting to move towards traditional Christianity. Or there's a trend right now. It's what is it? It's hashtag trad wives, traditional wives, and it's women who are like wanting to have a traditional female role in the household, in the home, raising kids and stuff. So I just thought,
not surprised.
as we move, we're the rebellion swinging towards other things. It's also interesting just to see that there's also a swing back towards some tradition,
right?
As well as we're kind of looking at where modern society is going, and there are people who are going, I don't want to go that way. I'm not liking where that's going. I'm swinging away from that and towards something else. I just thought that was interesting.
Well, and I'm not surprised by it. I've said it for a long time, and you have as well, and even maybe on this podcast a few times. The MO, or the way that Jesus operated was very much in the face of I wouldn't say an institution. The way he operated was so countercultural,
right?
Overall, but it invited. He was such a polarizing figure, and there is going to be an increasing attractiveness to the person and the work of Jesus. And we have to, as a church body, and I don't know, this might be the wrong audience to say this to, but we have to be open to thinking differently about how we disciple, how we interact with our neighbors and those who aren't Christians, and with one another. And I think that it is timely that the Jesus Revolution movie is coming out, because I believe we are marching full bore to another type of Jesus Revolution. That's exciting. Now, with that comes, in the midst of our culture, an increase of pressure, and evil does not want to see the success here. So I know we're getting a little off topic, but I think that there's something to be said about that. It's not, following Jesus it's not normal. It's weird. Yeah. And the more and more you dig into the story of Jesus and the story of the scriptures, you realize, oh wait, this is a story I can get behind. Yeah. It'll cost you something. Yeah, it'll cost you something, but
I love that in talking about reasons that young people are deconstructing, we are finding hope.
Isn't that
and
fun?
There is, and some of what you said will actually come up in one of Carey's later points. If we can get to it on this one. So, some things that are said here in Carey's article. He says, traditionally, we look towards public institutions to help shape character, ethics, and a shared vision of the common good. But in an opinion piece for the New York Times entitled "How Did Americans Lose Faith in Everything?" author Yuval Levin writes, "We lose faith in an institution when we no longer believe that it plays this ethical or formative role of teaching the people within it to be trustworthy." Very interesting.
Formative.
Yep. I also noticed the word formative. We lose faith in an institution when we no longer think that it is playing a formative role or an ethical role in teaching people how to be trustworthy or to be contributing citizens of society. And for me, being that I'm in the church, I mean, I didn't grow up in the church, but, have been in the church for over 10 years now. Government, I understand why people question government. Business, we see unethical business practices and the love of money creeping into a lot of things. We see the deception of media. I've had mostly positive experiences with the church. And so it did not immediately jump out to me that people would think of the church as selfish or self-serving. But I also understand that. I can understand that, especially we've seen injustices that happen and things that have happened within within church across the globe do not necessarily reflect the church or healthy church or God's church. But still, we see brokenness. But anyways, I just thought it was interesting tying this back to church. If we lose faith that the church plays an ethical or formative role in teaching people, then it makes sense that people wouldn't go. I don't believe the church makes a difference. I don't believe that the church is going to cultivate the right values in me or others or my kids, or that it's actually going to make a difference. But here's where I was kind of challenged is, how can we know whether or not the church is formative if we're not allowing ourselves to be formed by it? So if we're not actually going to church and participating with the church and engaging with the teaching of the church, then how are we ever going to know if the church is actually formative? If you withdraw from the church and you go, I don't know, it's just not making a difference. Well, you're not there.
Yeah.
You're not involved. You're not engaged. And I could also say many Christians who are attending church regularly aren't actually practicing biblical teaching once they leave. And so I think in here, you could say, man, if you're not applying it and actually taking that into your daily life and behaving differently and living differently, to say that it's not changing you or that church doesn't work, I would challenge that statement.
Yeah. And even just the idea that I was talking to my wife about this, when something becomes uncomfortable, we bail. That's a millennial thing for sure. Maybe even down into the younger generations now. And when in fact, difficulties, pain, strain, stress, family, not dysfunction, but family tension. Yeah. Those things form us. Those things, that's the best formation for me. I'm not saying that all of it, that some of it's abusive and that's different. And we're not talking about that.
Yeah.
Some have been really wrecked and hurt by unhealthy ministry. But that doesn't mean every pastor is, or ministry or church body is abusive and unhealthy and all that. We're just, or even dysfunctional. We're all sinners. We're all, the church, capital T, capital C, the church, the body of Christ, universal, is the only entity that I know of that says, we're all messed up, come join us, we're going to figure this out together. But if you don't stick around and trudge through some of the mud and are moldable and shapeable yourself to say, hey, I own some of this too, then you won't experience some of the benefits of sticking through it and the formation and going deeper too. So
there's some challenges in there because like Paul talks a lot about correcting one another and iron sharpens iron, and there's going to be some abrasiveness, but it's going to actually make all parties more like Christ, and it's going to move us into God's plan for our life. But I've had experience with people who I've tried to do that in love or share a word or just in love, and basically what happened was, if you don't receive me exactly as I am, then you don't love me, was their perspective, and they pushed away. And that's not formative, but that's not because no one was there or no one was speaking, but because we didn't want correction, or we didn't want someone to challenge us or our views. But truth is going to challenge us. Truth is going to disagree with us. What is best is always going to challenge us in different ways because it's pulling us along. It's drawing us further. Unless you've already arrived, then you're going to face challenges and opposition and difficult situations. And that is formative. It's positive pressure that's working us into something new. And it kind of made me think about, it's like someone saying, my parents never taught me anything. It's like, I'm sure they did. Were you listening? Did you apply the lessons? Because, I didn't agree with my mom with everything she was saying as I was growing up. But as an adult, I hear her words and I hear her voice and I see some of her wisdom a little further down the road. And so it has formed me. Just being in the household, being in the home, being around, and maybe yielding a little bit here and there, it is formative. And so that institution, trustworthiness.
And there's so much we can go off on this. I mean, we really could. I just think of even like, it's easy for me to sit next to the people that I like, that like me. But, you look at the words of Jesus, you look at the life of Jesus and how the invitation was to walk with him, and all the different range of people, types of people, backgrounds on people, and the beauty of the diversity of the church, that our local church body should reflect the diversity of the community, because it should be the most diverse entity on the planet. And so you can't help but rub somebody wrong or be rubbed wrong by somebody. And if you Paul talks about it all the time, about preserving the unity and fighting against evil. And in Corinth, the Corinthian church, he talks about, some of you have come to the table and you're stuffed full, while others are poor. They're poorer and they're like hungry. And some of you are like drunk before you even get to the table and partake in communion, and just talking about just the diversity, that there's going to be some things that rub someone wrong, and we need to stick through this together. And again, we're not talking about abuses and things like that, but I just think that fight, that's probably more practical, but it fights against some of the things that we're seeing a little bit.
No, it's really good. Carey continues to go on here, and he says that America's trust in pastors and clergy hovers at an all-time low. 51% of Americans 55 years or older have a favorable view of church leaders, but only 24% of 18 through 34-year-olds said pastors and clergy have high honesty. And that's perception, right?
Right.
I really wonder how the rating of pastors' honesty compares to any other authority figure,
like a government or a business or civic leader.
I'm curious where that stands, because it sounds really low, but I also think we live in a high distrust society.
True.
I don't think most people trust very many people at all.
Even your neighbors, like, what does that look like?
And so there's a challenge here. A couple thoughts is, one, we just live in such a distrustful moment in time.
Yeah.
And that I have a concern about that, because you will never find authentic community, friends you can be fully known by and trust and confide in, if you never choose to trust in people. And as we learn to trust and be vulnerable, that will backfire at times.
Yep.
We will find out that there are people who are not totally trustworthy, but we have to be willing to try in order to find people that are trustworthy. And I hear a lot of young people in this age bracket, 18 to 34, just saying, I just don't trust anyone. I can't trust anyone. I don't want to do it again. I don't want to try it again.
Right.
And that's going to leave us isolated and alone. And so that's a concern of mine. Another would just be, these are questions. Remember, I'm processing. I'm not providing answers, but
right.
Is our expectation of pastors and clergy significantly different than ourselves or average Americans? I mean, when we say that pastors do not have high honesty, I'm wondering if how we're looking at them, because pastors are people too.
Right.
regular, everyday, normal people. And so are we expecting something supernatural or superhuman from them that they can't ever get anything wrong? If they do, I don't know. Like, this is my processing, but I've seen, and we even do it in government. Sometimes we expect politicians to be perfect, and there's no way. And I can say, if I was in a political seat, there is no way that I would get everything right, as much as I tried. And so, I don't know. I just have thoughts there about what we expect from fellow human beings. And if we were in the same spot, if we would hold ourselves to similar standards or if they're different.
And I don't know if we do. I mean, honestly, I don't know how exactly the saying goes, but we expect something from somebody else that we don't even meet ourselves. And we give ourselves a pass. We give ourselves grace and mercy, but we don't give one another or somebody else, especially when we look at the what do you would call it, the superstar pastor or whatever. It's so easy to become in our nation, this celebrity. And I think there's positives to the technology and being able to advance the gospel, but I think there's a lot of negative backlash with, and so I think with the younger generations even demonstrating is seeing it. And I think that goes into one of the 5 things that Carey talks about with deconstruction. So I won't go too far into that, but
and we'll see if we can keep moving, but there's just so many good things in this article. I'll keep going. Now, I will say that, and Carey hits on this because we are, we want to defend the church. Our heart is for the church. We believe that the local church is the hope of the world. And so I hope you hear that in us and not a defensiveness, but we truly believe in the church. But he says that cynicism isn't exactly without merit. He says millennials and Gen Z are growing up during an era of increased geopolitical, economic, and social instability that's exacerbated or it is magnified by institutional failures. Amid all that disruption, the church, to a large extent, hasn't positioned itself as a redemptive counterculture that holds itself accountable.
Right.
I think there's some fairness to that.
I do.
In the way we've approached certain topics, we want to engage in the political sphere and stand for things and take stances, but sometimes we're known more for what we're against than what we're for. We're known more for hatred at times than we are for love. There are definitely times where I think it's not without merit for people to say that the church is hypocritical. I'm just reminded too that the church is people. The church is made up of people, and that's always going to exist on some level. Broken people are going to fall short. But again, I don't think it's totally without merit.
Right. Yeah. There's some things there. And obviously, like I kind of just alluded to, I guess it's in this first reason for deconstruction, the scandals and some of the other things that you see that are so high profile and are just compounded. And we can get lost in that and hung up on it and forget that, wait, my brother or my sister in Christ, that sits 2 pews over, that doesn't mean that they're doing that. That doesn't mean they're caught up in all of this. And so anyway, there's merit, but there's also grace in recognizing that no one's perfect.
But anyways, this is reason number 1. I'll continue to move forward. You can read more, but it does say younger generations appear to be more eager to hold institutions accountable for misdeeds and misconduct. And we do see that in a society of young people that are really driven by justice, which can be good. Of course, here's a reminder: the church isn't a singular centralized institution, but a multitude of denominations, movements, and traditions from all over the world centered around the life and teaching of Jesus.
Right.
And I think that was just a good reminder of what is the church really. The church is, it's a melting pot of cultures and societies and peoples and backgrounds and perspectives and economic statuses and ethnicities from all around the world, a bunch of different movements, a bunch of different traditions. Not all of those denominations even agree on everything, but all of them, all over the world, we are centered around the life and the teaching of Jesus.
Yeah.
And that's what we are.
Historically, too.
Yes.
Historically rooted. It's
And so even though we are not a centralized institution, but a global family of people centered around Jesus's life and teaching, he says the perception of the church as a singular entity is what matters in this case. And we are seen that way. So some may feel that it's unfair or intellectually lazy, but it's the reality. So that's point number one. Point number two, a second reason that young people are leaving the church is he says that we live in a more diverse, accessible, and mobile world than before. Wow. And that's super, super true. I wrote this, or I'll read this and then I'll say what I wrote. He says, for the better part of world history, most people didn't have to worry about having their faith tested by alternative truth claims. You simply lived and died within the religious system you were born to.
Crazy.
And I wrote, AKA, our faith is actually being tested. And so this is not a bad thing.
Nope.
But suddenly our faith is being tested in a way that maybe it hasn't ever been before. And so people who are not, again, we deconstruct. It's not total deconversion, but we are being tested and we're having to work backwards and rebuild up a foundation to know that we know what we believe.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I'll never forget, even just growing up in a very diverse culture in San Diego, California. And as a youth pastor and as somebody who helped walk students through, they're like, my neighbor is Buddhist and my other neighbor is a part of the LD. Yeah. It's like, how do I deal with this? There's some similarities I feel, but there's some differences. Do all roads lead to the same God, blah, blah, blah. And just going on and on and on about this. Outside of, my generation dealt with that. I mean, we dealt with that as millennials, but older, they did not as much, not nearly as much. And so it's very interesting to think this is a very interesting perspective.
Yes. And I think it's worth us taking into mind. He says the advent of the internet and social media opened the doors to a multitude of voices, perspectives, and experiences. Now, there's a theologian named Gregory Boyd who wrote The Benefit of the Doubt. And here's a quote from him. It says, it's much easier to remain certain of your beliefs when you are not in a personal contact with people who believe differently.
Yeah.
You're not challenged, right? You're not forced to have to really process through things. He says, but when you encounter people with different beliefs and when those people, when you encounter people with different beliefs and when those people's sincerity and devotion possibly put yours to shame, things become quite a bit more difficult. Wow.
Yeah.
I think that demonstrates the weakness of our own personal devotion sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
And it shows the need for a deeply formed life because you may say, oh, yeah, I'm a Christian, but you may have never read your Bible. You may claim to be a Christian, but you don't know what Jesus truly teaches. You don't know what's in what book and what you stand for and what your life is supposed to be about. You don't know your purpose. You don't know what it means to be made in the image of God, or that you're called to love your neighbor as yourself and to love God with all of your heart, mind, soul, and strength. And haven't worked through the scriptures to learn how that plays out each and every day. You're just kind of floating through life like other people, aimless, maybe not very devoted at all. And you come across someone who's very devoted to a different faith perspective and you go, wow, that seems more real. But it's their devotion is putting your devotion to shame. That's very challenging.
Yeah. And I would say in addition, because I've even ran into people who have some basis and knowledge of what it means to be a Christian and who say they're a Christian. And I would say knowledge does not equal intimacy. And so, that's a whole another thing there. So,
or someone who has a different view, but actually has a deeper knowledge of Christianity than you do.
Right.
And they might not even be correct, but you don't know enough in order to be able to discern whether it is accurate or not. And so there is a personal level of responsibility here.
Yeah.
It makes me think that as we face all these different voices and things, that we need to learn how to test theories.
Yeah.
And we need to learn how to test truth claims.
I
think that's a skill that we could really work on in our modern day, because I hear a lot of young people who echo statements that sound a lot more like TikToks that they watch rather than actual perspectives that they process through.
Right.
And so we hear something that sounds like a mic drop on social media or from someone famous, and we go, oh my gosh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
And then we regurgitate that. But have we actually processed through these things and processed through these truth claims? And do we know how to wrestle with things to determine if they actually can stand? Because Christianity can, when you dig deep enough, but I think that's a skill that the modern day believer doesn't have.
Yeah.
How to test truth claims and how to work that back against the scripture.
Yeah. When you look at ancient Christians, you know, you don't even have to, I mean, you can look at our ancient church fathers and mothers, but even just ancient Christians in general would spend a lifetime discovering just certain claims of scripture, digging into it, figuring out years of study and writing and researching journals, like different, different people who we've discovered their journals and their writings and their musings. And yet we think we allow a 90-second TikTok drop or reel or whatever to completely unravel everything we've believed. And that doesn't mean it. I think it's good to spark something.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, I never thought about that. I need to go back and dig and spend time really discovering, okay, what do I believe about this? What does the Bible say? What does Jesus say? Do I have mentors? Do I have people who have gone further than me? We've talked about all those things on here before, but yeah.
Yeah. And we have to also know this. 99% of the theology, the Christian theology we have written down, was not written just because or for no reason. It was written because of an alternative view that theologians or just believers of the day, Christians of the day, had to write down what was actually true. They had to work through the theology. So they were doing the work of hearing someone make a claim and then actually combating that claim, reconciling against truth, and then making a case for what is true. And that was, we call them theologians nowadays, but it was just everyday believers, everyday followers of Jesus doing the theological work. And man, I pray that we would be devoted enough that when we encounter a different view, we would do some work, that we would love the Lord with our heart and our soul and our mind in that way, and our strength, and be persistent and persevere and press in, that we wouldn't shy away and let it shake our faith, but we would let it cause us to dive in and grow deep roots and really wrestle with stuff, because you will never believe something deeper than when you wrestle through it enough in order to combat another truth claim. And I don't say combat as in to be vengeful or spiteful or arrogant, but just to wrestle through it. Yeah. And it happens in my own, there's alternative Christian views sometimes. And I wrestle with those to understand, what do I truly believe? What truly honors the scripture most? And that takes work. Yeah. And we do not have the luxury today to be theologically lazy Christians.
No, we do. That's a good word. We do not. And we don't have an excuse. I'm going way ahead in the article. We'll get to it on another podcast, but Carey says there's no doubt or question you can raise that hasn't been debated ad nauseum by centuries worth of theologians and philosophers. And that speaks right to what we're talking about, right? We don't have an excuse and we cannot afford it. We've got to, and that doesn't mean you got to be some professional theologian or anything like that, but there is plenty out there, and we can even talk about those another time.
Yeah, and we should. So kind of wrapping this one up on the second point, it says, in contrast to previous generations, Christians, millennials, and Gen Z are more likely to attend school, work alongside, and develop relationships with people who live, look, and believe differently. Yeah. Relational proximity has massive implications for cultural acceptance, social awareness, and interpersonal empathy. He says, to be clear, Christians should never view religious freedom and cultural diversity as a threat to the gospel. After all, Christianity is the most geographically diverse religion on the planet. All right. And I think we need to know that diversity is totally great. It's absolutely great. But in a world of diversity, we need to know that not everything is true. Right. And Christianity claims to be true, and we've got to be willing to do that work. So that's kind of the first 2 points of Carey Nieuwhof's article. And there's a lot there, but we know some of you may be wrestling with this personally, and we just are sharing some of our thoughts as we process through that as well, hopefully with you. Hopefully it's helpful. Sean, anything you want to say on this? And then we'll do another video, another podcast, working through the rest of the points.
I would say, we can put this article in the show notes and stuff. I'd say easy reading, good reading. Go ahead and read it. Maybe don't do it by yourself. Do it with a friend, and maybe have a discussion point. as well as kind of listening to these episodes as we kind of dive into it. And I think it'll be very beneficial. So,
yeah. So, totally new content. We haven't worked through an article like this before.
Never
but
done it.
if you do like it, let us know. Rate, review, throw a like on our YouTube page. We love that.
Definitely.
And thank you so much for the support. In the comments, in the description, in the show notes, you can find the links to all the social media, Patreon if you'd like to support. We've got more content on there. Our Patreon supporters that support at our pro level receive some podcast content every single week. So if you want more, welcome to the table, and you want to support, you believe in the ministry, you want to see it go further, faster, stronger, all those words, be a part of it. Join it with us. We appreciate you. Thanks for coming to the table.
Thank you.
God bless.